Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Way back in January of 1998, on a cold, rainy night here in Atlanta, I met Maitreya, or Maitreya actually came to where I used to play music, and he sat down with me and we spoke for about an hour. I used to play music at this hotel. It was actually right on the runway of Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. And really nice upscale hotel, probably 4.5 stars maybe. Most of the time it was pretty busy. This night it was actually kind of slow. Now the hotel itself is a atrium style hotel, all open on the inside. You can see up to the 11th floor or 10th or 11th floor, whatever it is. And I used to play there 6 nights a week. Now Monday was a half day and Saturday was a half day, but Tuesday through Friday we played from 5:30 to 11. And we had to take some breaks, and one of the breaks that we always took was between 7:30 and 8:30 every night. And I would do all sorts of stuff on that break. I would read, I would take a nap maybe if I was really tired, or I used to go for runs and stuff, or exercise, go to restaurants, or just hang out up at the bar. But for the most part, I would do something outside of work. And this night, because it was cold and rainy, I wanted to stay in. So I was sitting down in this little sofa chair down here, and I was reading the book, The Partner by John Grisham. Now, I used to wear all black. Our outfits were all black with kind of a black, it was like a black tux, but I had to wear a black suit. And I say this to say, because one of the things that Maitreya said to me was I reminded him of a priest. And I used to think about that all the time. And so anyway, this night in question, I was sitting down reading, and I look over, and there's a tall gentleman. He looked like the actor who played the president in the movie Clear and Present Danger with Harrison Ford. Almost exactly in the face. And except for he had a sandy brown beard, white hair, and a jet black matted down toupee on top of this gray hair. It was the weirdest, just the weirdest thing I've seen on somebody in a long time. He had a members only jacket, which you don't really see a lot of. And even back in 1998, they were a decade or so out of style. And I think he was just wearing slacks. And he had a igloo cooler in one hand and some bags in the other. Now, he didn't look homeless, but he didn't look like he belonged in this hotel at all. He was walking around and nobody was really paying attention to him. I was kind of surprised. I kept kind of would read, and something caught my eye, and I kind of looked at him, out of the corner of my eye, but he was just kind of walking around. And I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if he's Maitreya. And right when I said that, he quickly turned around. I mean, it was almost like he snapped around and looked me right in the eye with this very intense look in his eye, and didn't break eye contact. Now, I broke eye contact with him and went back to pretending like I was reading. And I remember saying to myself, well, if he's Maitreya, he's welcome to come over. If not, if he doesn't want to come over and he's Maitreya or whatever, I understand too. And right then he kind of slowly walks over to me. Now, I didn't feel uncomfortable or threatened or felt like somebody was intruding in on me or my space at all. I just kind of allowed him to kind of come over. And he stood up next to me. He was standing next to me, and he appeared to be about 6'1", maybe 6'2". He sets his bags down, and he starts crying. And I can't remember if I asked him, can I help you, or is everything okay, or something like that, or what's wrong? And he looks at me, and he goes, it just breaks my heart that people spend hundreds of dollars on food and wine and alcohol, and yet people go to bed every night hungry, which was a thought that I had many times. And I stuck my hand out and I said, my name's Gary. And he said his name was Doug. He never said his name was the Maitreya or he was the Christ or anything like that. But right when I touched his hand and we went to go shake hands, I felt this energy leave his hand, go up my arm very slowly, and went right into my heart area, or heart chakra, if you want to use the Eastern term. And I felt this wave of love and comfort and safety around this guy who was a total stranger, looked like he shouldn't belong in this hotel. And he immediately stopped crying. I think he wiped his face, but there were no remnants of tears. His eyes weren't red. It was just, he had just stopped weeping. And I said, "You're welcome to sit down if you'd like." So he sits down and he goes, "Are you a priest?" Like I said, was a thought that I had many times. And I said, "No, I play music upstairs." And one of the things that stuck with me, I don't remember everything he said, and some of the things aren't really that pertinent to this story, but one of the things that he said was that people always think I'm a priest when I dress like this. And I just remember thinking, I was like, wow, I think that all the time. And then he goes, "What do you play?" And I said, "Bass guitar." And he goes, "But that's not your true love, is it?" And I said, "No." And at the time I was learning piano. I wasn't very good at it. I usually just played music of that I would write. I never really finished any songs, but I was trying. And he goes, "People try to get you to sound like Billy Joel or Elton John." Now, I never told him I bought these books. The only two books I ever bought to learn how to play piano better was, one was Elton John, the other one was Billy Joel. And I didn't really go very far in the books. And he goes, "Don't try to sound like them. You should always try to be yourself." And that was one thing that really stuck with me too. And then he looks at me and he goes, "But you really remind me of Rembrandt or Picasso." And I had never painted at the time. About 5 or so years after that, I think, I actually picked up painting, and it's totally transformed my life. I'm very passionate about my paintings. I've sold a few paintings, but that's immaterial. But the thing of it is that, he had kind of encouraged me to paint. We talked about painting, and he goes, "Yeah, I can kind of see like Rembrandt more so than Picasso, because Picasso was recognized in this life and in his lifetime, and Rembrandt really wasn't." He goes, "But I see people picking up your artwork after you're dead, and really liking it." And it really was the thing that kind of inspired me to start painting, was that comment that he made, and how painting in and of itself has transformed my life for the better. Now, we talked about other things. We talked about the need for sharing and things like that, just like some of the stuff that I've shared with you. But the one thing that he said to me, and I didn't realize it at the time, and I've wondered afterwards if it was because of these two girls that I met a few years later at a peace rally, but he said something about a guy at Coke losing his job. He was going to get fired. Now he goes, "The guy's a good person. He has a good heart. He's just letting money get in the way." He was one of the VPs or something like that with Coke. And I to this day, I cannot remember his name that he used. Didn't really realize why he was saying that to me at the time. And then we talked about some other stuff, and I'll tell you why I think he said this to me later on. But anyway, after we're through our conversation, I wanted to test him to see if he was really Maitreya or not. And the only thing that could come to mind was when I was at a conference with Benjamin Creme. Benjamin Creme made a joke about, he was trying to give a lesson about living in the now and not being in the past. But the joke was, a guy goes to a doctor complaining of memory problems. The doctor says to him, "Well, sir, how long have you been having these problems?" And the guy goes, "Well, what problems?" Not a very funny joke, but it's when Ben said it, and the reason why he said that joke, it was kind of funny. So the only thing I could think of was this joke to test this guy to see if he was Maitreya. And I said, "I want to tell you something." And he interrupts me. He goes, "No. I got a joke that's way better than yours." And I went, "Okay." So what is it? And he says the same joke to me. He goes, "This guy goes to a doctor complaining of memory problems." And the doctor says, "Well, how long have you been having these problems?" And the guy says, "What problems?" So I had thought the joke, and this guy, who I believe was Maitreya, said it right back to me with ease. How could he have done that if it wasn't Maitreya? But anyway, so we talk about some other stuff, and like I said, I don't want to get too long. Anyway, so he stands up and he goes, "Gary, it's time for me to leave." And I look at my watch, and it's a few minutes before my break's about to end. And I had totally lost track of time. Now, when I first saw him walk over to me, he appeared to be about 6'1", maybe 6'2". And when I stood up next to him, now I'm 6 feet, he appeared to be about 5'7". And I remember, this is weird. And so, okay, well, then he puts his arm around me. And we're walking out and we're laughing about something. I can't remember what he said. I think, one of the things he said was he likes to find treasure among the trash. He always wants to be that guy to find a Rembrandt painting or a Picasso or a Van Gogh, at the thrift store, at a garage sale or something, or a flea market or something like this. And that was a thought I had many times. I was like, man, I wish I could find something like this in a thrift store. But I realized he was telling me this because that's what Maitreya's job is to find the treasure among the trash of people. All the glamours and illusions we all have, he finds the treasure in that, which is your heart, which is deep within your heart. That's what he does. That's all he does, is find that treasure. Well, not all he does, but that's the way he relates to us, is he finds that treasure in the trash. And so as we're walking out, we're laughing about something else, and he has his arm around me. And again, he appears to be about 5'8", 5'7". And I'm noticing that nobody's looking at him. They're all staring at me and thinking I'm crazy. And I'm like, I kind of look back at these people like, why aren't you looking at this guy, right? Well, according to Benjamin Creme, when I told him this story, he said that nobody else could see Maitreya but me. But he was as physical to you, or to me, as a person that I would meet on the street or at work or something like this. He was just that physical. I touched him. I know I could feel his hand. He wasn't a ghost. He wasn't in my imagination. And I eventually, and I'll kind of shorten this, I'll kind of paraphrase at the end. I eventually gave him one of the book that I first read from Benjamin Creme. He said he didn't need it. I know he probably didn't need it, but I wanted to give it to him anyway, which was Maitreya's Mission Volume 2. And then he says his goodbyes and he leaves. Well, to finish the story about the Coca-Cola VP, some years after that, I was at a conference in Atlanta. It was a Peace and Justice Conference. I can't remember the name of it, but that's the purpose behind this conference. And I was manning the booth for Share International, and these two girls come up, and they're wearing shirts that say Killer Coke, or they had signs and stuff like this, and they were all about Killer Coke and all the bad stuff that Coke does. And I let them tell me what they were passionate about, and how Coca-Cola will go into these rural villages in these third world countries and tap all their water supply. It kills all their crops. I mean, what they're saying is true. It's horrible. And they wanted me to come with them, and I told them, I said, no, I'm the only one here. I can't leave, and this is really where I need to be. But I said, can I make a suggestion to you? Because they were going to walk down, they were going to march down to the corporate headquarters for Coca-Cola and, have these signs and picket. And I said, can I make a suggestion to you? And they said, sure. And I told them this story that I just shared with you, and got to the guy about Coke, and they're like, what's his name? What's his name? And I said, I'm so sorry, I cannot remember his name. I wish I had written it down, but I didn't. But I said, if I can make a suggestion to you, rather than going down there and picketing, why don't you go down there and remind these people that they're good people, they have good hearts, they're just letting money get in the way. And they're like, yeah, I think we could do that. And they went bouncing off, and I don't know if they ever did or not, but that's what I suggested to them. So I always felt like after that happened, at the time that I met Maitreya and we were talking about this, I always wondered why he had mentioned this guy about Coke. I thought maybe it was something to do with me, or something. I don't know. But looking back on it, I'm pretty convinced that it was because I was eventually going to share this story with these two girls and hopefully help them with their mission against, trying to help Coke realize that they're letting money get in the way. So thank you so much for letting me share this story with you and sharing my side of the story with you. And I look forward to talking to you again in future videos. Thanks, and have a great day. Thank you.